Thanks for tuning in to more NASCAR talk as we enter the final race of the regular season for 2021. And then next week, we will preview the playoffs here on Prime Sports NASCAR. Eric will make his return, so he says, next week. But we'll definitely figure out a way to get Eric on next week because it's our playoff preview show. We only have two really big shows a year. So when we preview the season and when we preview the playoffs. So Eric has no alternative but to be here. How's everything going, CJ?
Things are going well. It's been a busy week, but looking forward to Daytona. Finally, another night race, another race at Daytona, and getting out of the regular season and into the playoffs. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's like we had ourselves like a little appetizer for Daytona on Sunday with the race at Michigan. And I don't know how the new cars are going to take to Michigan, but if they could figure out a way with the new cars to make sure that the bottom of the track isn't such a pain in the ass, then that could actually be one of the best tracks on in the series. But the bottom of the racetrack just kills everything. It's so bad, which makes Ryan Blaney's win that much more like crazy that he was. I mean, it's like nobody was. I don't even remember, even in the Xfinity Series races, if all of the restarts all weekend until the very last one might have been the only driver who was able to actually take the lead from the bottom.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the top line was a choice all the way through the weekend. They had the traction compound up in the top groove. For whatever reason, maybe it's a fact of not racing twice there throughout the year. Maybe that took away some of the grip where the traction compound wasn't. But yeah, you definitely wanted the high line. You could get the momentum, you could get the grip, and for whatever reason, throughout the day, it was just really difficult to stick on the bottom and get any kind of launch off of it. And some of that might have had to do with the weather as well. It's been pretty hot and humid around. So that's probably part of it as well. But I mean, overall, it produced a really good race. I agree with you. Michigan is one of the best tracks that we've got on the calendar. It's beyond me why they went down to one race. But like you said, if you can maybe shift that traction compound down a little bit more, give them back their extra race, put some extra laps on the track in terms of adding rubber to the track, maybe that'll work its way in, and you end up with an even better race.
Yeah, it's just as a breath of fresh air to see a race like that after what we've been watching over the past few months. And
road courses are all together.
Well, it's getting me to really think that how many road courses races are there now? Like 6, 7?
Yeah, 6 or 7. Okay. I can't remember right off.
There's only 4 races combined at Talladega and Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I get that you want. I mean, the road course races are, it's a kind of newness to it, and it's different, and we like it. Again, the schedule is the problem, but the way that the racing is, because it's so dominated by only a select couple of drivers in the road course schedule, compared to the complete unknown, anything can happen at maybe now 5 races. Even though I wouldn't say, because again, if Ryan Blaney doesn't make that win, I'm looking at that race as, even though it's better than what we've seen, it was still a race dominated by 2 or 3 drivers. It would have still been Byron and Elliott, and Hamlin but pretty much a Chevy driver, more than likely Byron or Larson. And but still, why have 4 races a year combined at racetracks that the fans just can't get enough of because of the anybody can win factor? But then you have 6 or 7 races at racetracks where you know who's going to win. That's the difference. That's what we have to change, and hopefully the new car will fix that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think you're discounting Bristol as well. They took away one of those races. Not to say, a Hendrick car wouldn't come out and win one of those as well. But at least it's much more bunched up. You've got things that could happen. You can have trouble that they get caught up in and end up getting shuffled on the way back. But you're exactly right. I mean, I could care less if we ever go back to New Hampshire. Trying to think of some of the other ones that are out there that I just
Pocono and
Pocono, yeah. Michigan's a great track. It always has been. Certainly over the past few years, it's even gotten better, I would say. You've got the 4 super speedways, which please do not touch those. Road courses, I'm okay with. Maybe that becomes a difference maker for the championship. If you've got relative competitiveness and parity across the rest of the ovals, then the guy who's better on the road courses and dominates those then deserves to win the championship, in my opinion. But don't take away the Bristols. Don't take away the Martinsville is another one. I like Martinsville.
Yeah, we should have 2 Bristols. And again, if you want to put this dirt crap back on, which is fine, make it 3 Bristols.
Make it 3.
And add another Michigan. So do that. Give us the racing. You say you're doing this for the fans. Well, come on. Are you? And the whole road course thing, I get that. And they have appeased the fans that way. But it's still, there needs to be more racing like what we saw on Sunday.
Totally agree. And that's what this rules package and car was supposed to do. If we finally saw it there. But yeah, hopefully with the new car, they make a little bit more traction. They've been trying, just hasn't completely gone in their favor, unfortunately, yet.
And I don't know what it is with Ryan Blaney and the way he wins races. But seriously, can he ever win a race where he's like up by 4 or 5 seconds, with like 30 laps to go, and there's no way nobody's going to catch him? It's
Kesler, same way. It might be a Penske thing. I mean, Hendrick was so dominant and has been so dominant. I said it last week. Michigan's a horsepower track, and the Hendrick cars have had the legs on all the other cars in the field throughout the entire season. If you look at Keselowski's win, if you look at Blaney's win, they were all come from behind wins. They were kind of shockers, dominated by somebody else, but they keep themselves in position. That's how they get it. But you're right. He's got it. Even in past years, I don't think any of his prior wins from prior seasons, I don't think he's gone out and dominated those either. So he's got some work to do, but he's still winning. That's what counts.
And Ford continues. So Ford, even though Chevy and Hendrick dominated the race, Ford wins again.
Amazing.
So
absolutely,
we'll look at this at the Michigan stats next year, and that's what we're going to look at. We go, hey, Ford dominating. We'll remember what Chevy did, but it's still, hey, the win's the win. And really, it's interesting how it all came about, because I must say, and finally, because I had big money on Blaney. Finally, for the first time all year, a caution went my way, because the thing that started it all was the little bit of raindrops that came down, and everybody panicked. And now we have to make extra caution that nobody slips. So we're going to call the caution out. And I'm like looking around the track, and I don't know what are they doing? Okay, whatever. So caution comes out, and then another caution, the Logano crash with a bunch of, and that usually happens. The caution breeds cautions, and that's what set everything up, because nobody wanted the bottom row. And I saw Blaney on the bottom in the second. I'm like, really? They really gave up the second spot? I mean, Blaney could have been like 6th. He could have been 3 cars back if it wasn't for the fact that nobody wanted the bottom lane.
Yeah, and they'll point to that as a Truex rule, shaking things up, and absolutely gave him the ability to win. When I missed that, I don't know what I was doing. I was looking at something else, or I was, getting a drink or something. But when I came back, they had already gone through the Truex rules, and they were lining up and coming to the green flag. I'm like, how did Blaney get on the front row? I had to go and look to figure out what the heck had happened. I don't know why. If you're that close to the end of the race, take the gamble. You're going to win or you're going to finish 6th. And, starting on the front row is better than starting 3 rows back.
And that's why. Because
even
all you need is one little, especially what happens at the end. There's more pressure. There's more pressure on the outside driver, who knows he's supposed to be in front. And Byron can say whatever he wants about whatever excuse he wants to make, but he screwed up. He was paying too much attention to Denny Hamlin. So don't worry about Denny Hamlin. Just move forward. I was okay with that, of course, and then Kyle Larson. Wow, talking about the post-race interview. That was, for him to say that He was thinking about points. That had to be the worst thing that the people in NASCAR were listening to. They all talk about how important it is for these drivers to go for the wins. And here he is admitting it freely that, well, I had points on my mind with Denny Hamlin right behind me. It's like, this is why we say it over and over again. They have to make winning the race more important.
It was enlightening for sure. It was rather disappointing because the last person I ever would have expected that to come from would be Kyle Larson, who's topped the field on wins so far this year. You'd want to run up the score and you'd want to continue just doing as much as you could. I mean,
and
Denny
he just
Hamlin.
wrecked, what's his name, a couple of weeks ago to try to win a race.
Yeah.
Bell.
Yes, exactly. And going into, Watkins Glen. But yeah, I mean, somebody like Kyle Larson, who he's been dominant. He led the most laps on the day. I think Chase Elliott was second. If not, they were tied.
Two. Yeah. But Larson led 70 and Elliott had 68. And Byron had 18. Those are the top three.
Yeah.
Hendricks.
And it looked like Byron or Larson were about the only two that had anything for Blaney in those last couple of laps. Everybody else was too far back. But for whatever reason, I thought, honestly, when I was watching it, I thought it was Larson trying to be nice to Byron to give him the opportunity to get the win being a teammate. It didn't seem like he had any kind of concern about Denny Hamlin to me, because it felt like Denny Hamlin was a little bit further out and definitely didn't have anything to go up and challenge Blaney. So yeah, to hear the conversation afterward where he said it was points, I was like, yeah, why does the regular season championship matter? Who can you tell me who the regular season champion was last year?
The points aren't that big of a deal once you start the playoffs. It's sure you have an edge, but it's not this dramatic edge. You can have one bad race to start the playoffs and you're back to almost even. So yeah, I don't know. Very surprising. I will say this though, and this is important, and we talked about how Ryan Blaney needs all the help he can get with his team because they've screwed him a lot this year. But this is the proof. He drove those last 8 laps perfectly.
Yes.
That was Byron and Larson came after him, both of them, and they were trying to pressure Blaney into doing something stupid. And he wouldn't do it. He made every perfect move. Anytime it looked like they were like, all right, we're going to do this, he was like, I don't care. I'm not going to do that. I don't need to do that. So I just thought that was tremendous. It was probably one of the best, the best racing I've seen from Ryan Blaney.
Is definitely the best leading I've ever seen from Blaney, without a doubt. And the person that it reminded me of the entire time I was watching it, and I think there's probably only one other person that is that good at it, and the drivers will say Ryan Newman's really hard to pass, so give him that credit, but Joey Logano. How many times have we seen Joey Logano not with the fastest car, but in the lead, and he's able to put his car in the perfect position to be able to throw somebody off? He blocks at the right time. He gives them space at the right time. He cuts off the draft at the right time. He takes away their lines at the right time. He is the only other driver, and I wonder how much they've talked to each other over the past couple of years to pass that knowledge on to Blaney, because it was like I was watching Joey Logano lead one of the many times and win a race like he's done in the past, and it was great to see. I'm glad to see Blaney stepping up, and glad that his team didn't screw him over this time in the victory lane.
And by the way, they didn't even throw the caution when Reddick spun out, so that was also something where it looked like they might throw it. So Blaney got kind of lucky too, because once you're in the lead, even though he would have restarted first on the outside, you just saw what happened. You're just better off no other cautions. Just I'm in front now, and let them try to pass me, because it's very difficult to pass when you're on the outside. Look, if he didn't have a fast car, then he would have got passed, because Byron and Larson were very fast. But we didn't know how fast Blaney's car was because he was never in front. Now, it wasn't very good early. Everybody knew that, but they did a really good job to get to the point where once he had fresh air, he was fast. He was very capable of holding them off. I don't know how much longer he could have held them off, but he just needed whatever it was, 8 laps or 8 laps. That's all it took.
8 laps.
and he was able to get the victory for Team Penske and Ryan Blaney. And maybe that's the kind of momentum he's going to need, because I'm sure that he knows very well what happened last year when the playoffs started and how that knocked them out as soon as it actually, before it even, got going. After like the first race, second race, he was out. He was done. Okay. Couple of things I want to remind everybody, and we'll talk more about this next week with Eric when we do our playoff preview show, is that next week a few changes to some of our rules. First, for our futures rule, we have $100 that's the maximum we're able to invest every week. Starting in the playoffs, it goes up $100 every round, and it maximizes to $500 for the championship four. So starting next week, we'll be able to maximize our future plays to $200. And as far as fantasy, trades end next week. So if we want to make any trades, we have to make it before the playoffs start. And we can add free agent drivers only one more week, which is next week, before the playoffs begin. And I don't really see anybody making any changes for drivers. Do you?
No.
Yeah. Unless, do you think if someone like, if Chastain gets in, would that change
No,
anybody's mind?
No, because it's so much momentum, whether he gets in
Not
the playoffs
Chastain,
or not.
Briscoe.
Still, I
have Chastain.
Well, Briscoe maybe. Yeah, maybe Briscoe, because he's been on an upward swing.
He's the
he
only
might
one
be
I can
one
think
of
of.
you. Yeah, he might be one of maybe two. But yeah, probably. I mean, even if I'm wavering here, just saying whether or not I'd consider him. So no, nobody's going to make a move
Probably
in the
not,
next week.
No. All right, so let me and I'll throw this again out there next week when Eric's on, just so we can all have like a discussion on this. But I'll throw this out there for you right now. Would you trade? I'm not even sure. This is actual, it's out there. But I'm going to make you make a decision here. If I offered you Brad Keselowski for Kurt Busch, would you take it?
Ooh. Yeah, I probably would.
I'll have to think about that then. Yeah, because we all expect Keselowski is going to do what he usually does, what all the Penske drivers do, and now the playoffs are here, and they're going to start to.
He finds a way to survive.
But Kurt's also in the best groove of the season.
Correct.
Which is
he finds ways to win.
What's that?
He finds ways to win.
He does.
He finds ways to survive and advance.
All right, now in Daytona, the last 7 winners. Okay, and this is not a surprise, but it is interesting that the last 7 winners, the average starting position is 18.7. And that includes winners from 21st, 29th, and 34th. So it doesn't matter where you're starting. We know that, but it's really gotten to the point over the last 7 races at Daytona where anything's happening. And here's something interesting as we turn our attention to starting to break down the race. And that is Denny Hamlin and his dominance. He's the only active driver to win multiple races at Daytona since.
Are you looking for a year or another driver?
Either.
Multiple races at Daytona.
Active driver.
Jeff Gordon?
No, active driver.
Oh, active as of today.
Who's driving? Yes, got to be driving today.
Gotcha. Now I know what you're asking. See, it's not Harvick.
They have to have multiple wins at Daytona. And they're driving right now.
Logano's got 1. Is it? It's not Stenhouse, is it?
No. This is interesting because there's a lot of drivers who have won once at Daytona.
Amarola?
No, once.
Jeez. Okay. No, I'm stumped. I don't know.
Harvick.
I would never have guessed Harvick.
2010.
He only has like two wins at Daytona, doesn't he?
Yes.
Okay.
2010.
Wow.
So if you
Long.
don't
Wow.
take Denny, here's I guess you can call this, just a formula that you can consider if when you're wagering on the race this weekend. If you don't want to take Denny Hamlin, then the trends are saying take any driver who's never won there before. That's what the trends are saying, and that would mean Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott. Who else has never won there before? Let's see. Alex Bowman. As far as the contenders, Christopher Bell, Matt DiBenedetto, Martin Truex
Truex.
Jr.
Yep.
Those would be the top contenders that have never won. If you want to go that route.
Or Matt DiBenedetto.
Yeah, I mentioned him. Yes, Matt DiBenedetto. Yeah. So that could be a way you want to go. But Denny Hamlin is the clear favorite for a reason. He's been dominant at Daytona, 6th or better in 10 of his last 15, including a runner-up in 3 Daytona 500 wins. That's the only thing I'm a little bit concerned with. But not because he's starting, as you've mentioned, he's starting to kind of get back into the groove again, and he's desperate for a win. So you kind of get the feeling that even though normally he'd be like, well, this isn't the 500, it's an important race, but it's not the 500. Now it's almost like, well, yeah, this is important. He was 5th at the 500. He led almost half the laps. And I think we all took him, but it just didn't work. I don't remember why it didn't work out for him in the 500. Finished 5th. Anyway, 4 top 5s in his last 8 on the season. 5th last week. He's never won the Coke Zero Sugar 400 race. So we'll see if he can get that done. And don't forget, he also won at Talladega in the playoffs last year. So he just knows how to race at these types of racetracks. 7-1, is the number. And I just felt, you know what? I haven't taken Denny Hamlin in a bit. He's so good here that it's almost like he's this good here, just like Larson and Elliott are in the road courses, but I'm only getting 2-1 or 3-1 on the road courses. Here I'm getting 7-1, so I'm going to roll the dice and put up almost half of my money, actually exactly half of my money invested on Denny Hamlin on Sunday. Saturday
I was
night.
very surprised. Yep, very surprised when I saw the odds come out that the lowest rated driver was a 7-1. Not surprised that it was Hamlin. It makes complete sense. I think when he does win, he's going to have a string of them because, like you said, so many top 5s recently. He seems to be finding his edge. Should have won multiple races that he's lost in the last lap or two. So he if there's anything owed to anyone from a victory standpoint this season, I think Denny Hamlin is first in line for that. Daytona is definitely a place that he can get it done. And a lot of that has to go to the fact of his teammates, how good they are at getting together and working together to keep everybody else off their backs. Hamlin, for whatever reason, he's able to make it to the end of these races intact as well. And that's half the battle. And that's also why you're seeing drivers that win from 18.7 or whatever it is, and first-time winners, is that how many beaten up cars do we have at the end of every single one of the races? Because of all the crashes that happened throughout the afternoon, people racing for stage points. And that's going to happen again this week. I mean, we've got Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick going to be making some pretty aggressive moves, I would think, to be able to beat each other and get in. And then just all coming down to the last couple laps where everything goes out the window and you end up with those cautions. But Denny Hamlin, I could definitely see him winning this week. And there could not be a better time for him to win, heading right into the playoffs. Like I said, I think when he does get that win, he's going to pull off a string of them in a row.
Yeah, we all put more money on Hamlin in our futures this week. And I think this is the really perfect time to do it, even if, let's say, he doesn't, especially because he may win this week, and then his odds probably start to drop a little bit. But even if he just hangs around 6, 7, 8-1, which is where he is right now, it's as long as he keeps this momentum going, it's a good time to kind of take him because he's got a good value on him right now. I wouldn't want to put money on Hamlin if his number was near Kyle Larson, but
definitely,
yeah. Yep. Or even Kyle Busch is all of a sudden the second choice at 5-1, but 8-1 is a really good number.
That was surprising to me as well to see Kyle Busch jump up like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe
I
there
don't
is a
know
big
that.
maybe
Put him up.
the Bush family in Vegas skipped over to the casino and put a few million on him. So it's possible. And Reddick and Dillon are only 25-point difference.
I think it was 28. Let me see. 25. Yep, it was 28. It went down to 25.
How can Dillon get in if he doesn't win?
He needs help. So Dillon cannot get in on his own unless he wins.
Oh, he can't.
Correct. If Tyler Reddick scores 31 points, it's over.
But what happens if Reddick crashes in the first 30 laps?
Then Dillon needs, well, that would be the help. Then Dillon would just need to close that 25-point gap.
Okay, so he could still get in without a win as long as Reddick crashes.
Basically.
And he probably needs to crash early then.
Yes. No stage points and bottom of the order from a DNF standpoint is about the only way you could do it.
So Reddick is probably going to be like way back, you think, early?
No, I mean he needs to get 31 points. I mean he could almost.
He's going to be normal, driving normal.
Be normal.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to go out and he's going to race, and I think he's going to try to get stage points as well. So he's going to do whatever he can do to be in the top 10, certainly through the first two stages, and then after that, if he needs to phone it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kyle Larson. Nobody took Kyle Larson this week at 11-1. Now he's never had a top 5 in 14 races at Daytona, and the difference is that in the other. Like when we were talking about his history in road course racing and how that's changed this year, difference is he has raced at Daytona this year in the 500. And once again, it was just finish 10th, led a lap. So it was the first race, but we have a little bit of a sample that still says this is not Kyle Larson's best track.
10th and 10th in his last two races, like you said, at the track, one lap led. That was in this year's Daytona 500. He's only got 5 total top 10s from 14 starts. And aside from that one lap that he led earlier this year, he only has a grand total of other laps led of 16 that came all the way back in 2017. So yes, Hendrick is fast. I don't think they're as capable of sticking together and avoiding trouble as Joe Gibbs' cars have been. Like we talked about with Hamlin, so that might be part of the problem. Byron tends to crash out here, so Hendrick cars tend to find themselves a little bit out in the wind by the time you get to the finish. Larson, again, just in general, it's not the best track for him. He may be buoyed by better teammates if they have better performances, but I would expect probably a Byron or a Bowman over him, to be quite honest with you, at Daytona.
There are 4 drivers that we've all picked. One was Hamlin. The second one is William Byron. He's the defending champ, so he'd have to win back-to-back. But he was also second at Talladega. Didn't fare well at the 500. But he does well at these types of tracks, as evidenced by the win last year. Coming off a strong second-place finish, and he had that little bit of a hiccup, but now he's kind of back again over the last few races. And really, if you look at it, he also is. He's got a win in the Xfinity Series. He's only raced twice in the Xfinity Series. He's got 1 win at Daytona. So this is a good track for Byron, and the odds are pretty strong. And again, the only thing is he won last year. That's it. Other than that, I think he's a really good play this week.
If he can avoid crashing, he's an excellent play. He's crashed 3 out of the 7 times he's been there. He almost always starts up front. There are only 3 times where he started outside of the top 6, actually. This will be the 3rd time, I think, he starts on the front row at Daytona, if I'm not mistaken. And he's led, in contrast to Kyle Larson, he's led 80 total laps in just 7 starts. So Byron's very quick at this track. He just needs to figure out how to make it to the end. Unfortunately, he gets caught up in crashes pretty frequently. But if he's able to get through, he's definitely going to be a contender at the end.
And another third straight Hendrick driver we're talking about is Elliott. No top 10s in his first 9 Daytona races. Yet he did lead 87 laps. The last 2 races, he's led just 3 laps, but he's finished second, including in the 500 this year. He does have an Xfinity Series win at the track. Both of you guys put a little bit of money on Chase Elliott.
The only thing, again, is the crashing. 4 consecutive crashes at Daytona, 11 total starts, which means he's finished 7 of them. But 2 of them were top 5s, and those were the last 2 that were both runner-ups, and he started 27th and 12th in those. So, yeah, I think Elliott's a solid play. Again, just avoid the crashes. If the Hendrick cars can avoid crashes, they're going to be really tough to beat, because it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 all on the line right up front.
Logano's also 12-1. And you guys also put some money on Logano. Got 6 top 5s. He's got a 2015 500 win. But last 4 races at Daytona, he's averaged 22nd. And he was 12th in the 500 this year, but he did lead 26 laps. And he's led 26 or more laps in 3 of his last 4 races at Daytona. But he's getting caught up in the accidents and in the issues that just about luck. That's why I usually like to stay away from drivers who are kind of in that like run of bad luck at Daytona. It's like I wait for them to get off that bad luck run. But Logano seems to be in like a little bit of a bad luck run.
Yeah, 3 straight crashes, but he led 6 laps, 36 laps, and 26 laps before crashing out of those. The key when I was writing Logano down for my picks was as long as he's not by his teammate Keselowski. If those 2 can stay up one another, because I think they've crashed each other there multiple times. If they can stay away from each other and keep off one another, I think they're both going to do really well. I think Logano is the one that's proven himself better at Daytona in particular. So he constantly leads laps recently, and unfortunately, we've seen the wrecks at Daytona move from the middle of the pack to the front of the pack more recently, which is why Logano is on that stretch of bad luck with the 3 consecutive crashes coming into it, because he's usually at the front. So again, like you said, it's about luck, and I think in particular he and Keselowski work so well together. They were so fast. I thought one of them was going to win earlier this year, but they took each other out pretty early, if I remember correctly. I do think Logano is a very good choice this week, despite the run of bad luck.
Speaking of crashing, Ryan Blaney is 13-1. He's crashed in 5 of the last 8 races at Daytona. When he has not crashed in his last 4, he's finished 6th, 2nd, 7th, and 2nd. And he led 118 laps when he finished 7th in one of those races. He is good at this type of track. He won at Talladega last year, and he's on a hot run of 4 top 5s in his last 5, including a runner-up and then the win last week. Still going to be hard for him to win back-to-back weeks. That's the major thing. But he's getting good odds. It's all about avoiding the wreck.
100% about avoiding the wreck. It's going to be difficult, like you said, to win back-to-back weeks. Crashed out and finished 30th, but like you said, he's an excellent pusher. He's proven himself at both Talladega and Daytona. He just at Daytona needs to get his way into victory lane. He's got to get it to the finish, leading 118 laps, leading 13 laps back in 2019 as well. He's got the chops to be able to do it, and the Penske cars are fast at Daytona. We've seen that. So again, luck for him. He's starting 6th. Maybe that'll help. But he's one for me that's kind of more of a pusher at Daytona than somebody that's gone out and led or leads and dominates. That's except that 2018 one. And had he won that 2018 Daytona 500, we wouldn't have had the conversation that we had earlier where he needs to go out and dominate a race and actually finish it off and win, because that was a dominant performance. He just didn't close it out.
All right, Austin Dillon is next at 15-1. Both you guys put a little bit of money on Dillon. This is like the best racing for Austin Dillon. If you look at it, 50% of the time over his career, he's been in the top 10. Including 3 top 5s. He won the Daytona 500 on the last lap in 2018. He was 3rd in the 500 this year. In the Xfinity Series, he's raced 10 times at Daytona. He has 7 top 5s and a win. He's coming into the last 2 races, though, on some bad luck. and especially after the wreck with Keselowski last week. And as we mentioned before, he pretty much has to win. But like we said last week, these were a couple of good tracks for him. And it showed last week until the wreck, and he's getting a lot of respect at 15-1.
Dillon and Daytona is arguably Dillon's best track. When I think of Austin Dillon and where he's successful, I automatically think of Daytona. The 500 win, he races at the front always, and regardless of whether they're in a slump or they're having a bad year or if they're having a great year, Richard Childress Racing knows how to make these super speedway cars. That's why I picked both Dillon and Reddick this week. The upside and arguably the downside of Dillon this week as well is that, like you said, he basically has to go out and win. So he's going to be pretty aggressive. If he can avoid getting damage, which he's extremely good at Daytona. There are only 2 times he's DNF'd, and he's raced there 16 total times, and he's got to win. Only 2 DNFs. That's pretty unheard of at a place like Daytona. And he's a pretty aggressive driver to begin with. So he's going to go into this weekend being aggressive, knowing that he's got to go out and win. He's got a car that can win. They've got a package that can win. So does Reddick. So it'll be interesting to see how they play out. Plus, he led 7 laps and finished 3rd in this year's Daytona 500.
And then at 16-1, you got Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. Both you guys, we all avoided Kyle this week. You guys put a little bit on Keselowski. Kyle has 8 top 5s and a 2008 win in 32 races. He's led a lot of laps over his career at Daytona, but only 1 win. It's kind of surprising. Just 1 win for Kyle at Daytona. He crashed earlier this year at Daytona, and his last 3, a matter of fact, crash, engine issue. Keselowski, meanwhile, only has 3 top 5s. It's interesting how different he is at Daytona compared to Talladega. It's like you would think that's completely different racetracks. He does have a win, but it's only 1 of 3 top 5s in 24 races. He has an average of 26th in his last 9 races at Daytona. He won Talladega this year, but who cares? It has nothing to do with Daytona. Nothing. And again, he crashed earlier this year. 7 of his last 9 are crashes, and he only has 1 top 5 in his last 6 on the season.
But we're still choosing him. He's, Talladega, hands down, you want to go with Brad Keselowski. He's excellent there. The fact of the matter is, he's excellent at Daytona too. The results just don't show it. He and Logano were racing for the lead when they crashed each other out. So that's one of them. He's excellent in the draft. He is excellent on super speedways. He's just got to get over this bad luck at Daytona. He led 115 laps when he won back in 2016. The difference between Talladega and Daytona is a little bit more narrow. Tire wear becomes a much bigger factor at Daytona than it does at Talladega. However, this is a night race, so that probably won't be as much of a factor. So all those things kind of play into Keselowski's hands. Kyle Busch, like you said, it's surprising that he hasn't had more wins at Daytona, just the one, because he's not bad. He's always fast. He's always up front. Just can't. I don't know if he's got the bad luck. He's got a lot of crashes on his resume there. 10 DNFs out of 32 starts, but the 22 finishes and only 1 win and 468 laps led. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense because not all those laps were just led in that 1 win. It's spread across all of the wins. So I'm not sure if it's not him able to make the moves at the end, or if he doesn't have the help at the end because of his reputation. That might be part of it as well. He's got to figure out how to close the deal, similar to Blaney.
Bowman is 18-1. And actually, this is the driver that you have the most to gain as far as the top contenders. You're the only one of the 3 of us to take Bowman. He's not on a good run over his last 3 races, and he's never had a top 5 in 10 at Daytona, including a crash that happened this year, which, by the way, I think was the only time he's ever crashed at Daytona,
right,
which is interesting. But his career average finish is 18th. Why'd you take him?
I took him because of the 1 crash. He's got a Hendrick car.
Right.
He's won this season. We know they're fast. He started inside the top 10 at Daytona every single race since 2018 that we've been there. He's starting. He does have great partners. He's starting 15th this week. He can get to the finish, and he's got a fast car. I think the lack of top fives is it's just not a factor for me. He's got top tens. He's gotten out and led laps, not a ton of them, but he's been able to get out front as well. And he's got the single car speed. So he's just got to figure out that drafting. He already knows how to get to the finish without damage. So assuming he can do that, he might be able to win.
Bell, you're also the only one to take Bell. He's at 20-1. Doesn't have a top 10 yet in 3 cup races, but he led 32 laps in the 500 earlier this year. Why did you put money on Bell?
The laps led, 32 laps led in the 500. That's spectacular. I went with him over Busch. Even if you look the prior race, the fall race of 2020, he led 2 laps there, finished 13th after starting 23rd. I think he's another one that's a little bit frustrated at the moment, that's going out to be a little bit aggressive. He's already got his spot in the chase. He can go out and win, get some momentum. I think he and Hamlin can team up and do a lot of things, good things together. And with Martin Truex there pushing them along, I think they could both be in a really good position, both he and Hamlin. Truex, maybe not so much.
Amarola and Harvick are also 20-1. Amarola's got the win in 2014, but his average finish is 21st. He crashed earlier this year at the 500. Harvick, again, we mentioned he has 2 wins, but he hasn't won since 2010. He doesn't have a top 5 over his last 6 on the season. He was 4th earlier this year at Talladega, 4th also at the Daytona 500, leading 17 laps. So Harvick the one, or Almirola, if you had to choose between the two. And taking a look here, nobody took Almirola or Harvick this week.
I'm not surprised that no one took either. If you forced me to choose between the two of them, I would take Harvick. And it's not because I don't think that Eric Almirola has the capacity to win at Daytona. We clearly know that he does. He's extremely good in restrictor plates. I just don't think he's going to win 2 races this season. So that would be the reason why I would go with Harvick. Harvick has yet to win this season. He's not great at the super speedways. He's never really come out and been like the dominant driver, which is sometimes you would think that he would be that type of driver, but he's just never been able to.
He seems like he was better earlier in his career.
Yes.
He hasn't been very good lately.
And it was like really early in his career too. It was like the first couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, like maybe the first 4 or 5 seasons. And then after that, he just kind of faded into the middle of the pack.
Was he a Childress driver?
He's been Childress all the way up until, when did he switch over? 2014?
So maybe that was it. Who knows? I haven't really looked at the stats, but that could have been it.
Yeah, as I said with Dillon and Reddick, Childress field amazing super speedway cars. Stewart-Haas pretty good, as evidenced by Almirola. I just don't think Almirola is going to win 2 races. Harvick, I think, could win a race still this year, so why not Daytona?
All right, now Stenhouse Jr. and DiBenedetto were 22-1, and these are the other 2 drivers we have all taken. These are the definite best drivers with the odds at 22-1. Stenhouse has the win in 2017. He was also runner-up at Talladega last year. He has led at least 11 laps in 5 of his last 8 races at Daytona. DiBenedetto was 5th at Talladega this year, 11th or better in 6 straight this year, including 6th last week and 5th a couple of weeks ago at Indianapolis. So he's just getting really close to breaking through. He's got 3 top 10s in 12 races at Daytona, which is just about as good as anywhere that he's raced. And he led 49 laps, as we remember, in the 2019 Daytona 500 before wrecking. So these are 2 really definite have to put on your car drivers based on their odds and how good they've been able to run at a racetrack like Daytona.
Either of them pulling into victory. The only thing that would be surprising to me if one of them won would be if somehow NASCAR allowed them both to win. That would be the only surprise.
Okay.
Because either one of them, I think it has an extremely good chance of winning this race.
And then they'd sneak into the playoffs.
Exactly right. DiBenedetto, we talk about how much of a momentum sport this is. DiBenedetto is on the best momentum he has ever had. And by the way, Daytona is one of the places where he races at his best. And he's with the Wood brothers. So Wood brothers win at Daytona pretty frequently. So they field, like Richard Childress Racing, field really great super speedway cars. DiBenedetto knows what to do with those cars. He needs a win. He's looking out for his career. There would be no better Cinderella story than DiBenedetto going to victory lane. Now, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he's the only thing for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I think he's got to tap down that aggression.
Yeah.
He gets too aggressive too early.
He starts some of these wrecks.
Too many accidents too early on. If he can get over that, and you can see that through his career. If you scroll down his results, like he finished at Daytona pretty consistently. It's only been in the past couple of seasons that he's started having these wrecks, and I think it's because he knows that he can win. So he's being ultra aggressive to get himself up there, and then he ends up getting caught in some of these wrecks as well. He's just got to tap that down until the right time at the end of the race. And like I said, either one of them pulling into victory lane would not be surprising to me.
You know, I get a feeling the next time, whether it's Saturday night or whenever, that DiBenedetto has a lead late in a race, he's going to win.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
I think the time is now. I think he's had too many situations where he just hasn't been able to get lucky, breaks, whatever. I think the timing is the next time, whenever that is, he's going to win.
I wouldn't disagree with you at all. Like I said, it's a momentum sport. He's on the best momentum he's ever had in his career in the sport right now, and he's with the best team he's ever had at the best track where they can field the best car. It very well could be this weekend.
Because if out of the two drivers, it's clear that if DiBenedetto wins, he actually can do something in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So, all right, Truex and Wallace are 25-1. Again, believe it or not, in 32 races, Truex has never won, and he only has 3 top 5s, but 2 have come in the last 6 races. His average finish is 22nd, including 25th earlier this year. Wallace has 2 top 5s and a runner-up in 8 races. And I know you guys were going to take him because I was thinking about taking him as usual, but it's like, for me, I don't know, because keep in mind, he's only led 1 lap. He always seems to do the wrong thing. When he's in contention, he's got a shot in the last 20 laps or so, he just does something that he shouldn't do. And I just think that's experience. I think if he's in the sport for the next 5 or 6 years, at some point, I think that experience will kick in and he'll win one of these races. We'll see if it's Saturday night.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and not one that I thoroughly considered, to be honest with you, but you're exactly right. He has the tendency to be able to get up to the front and race near the front, but multiple times he has made the wrong move. He's either blocked the wrong line or some other kind of move that has cost him track position, and he ends up tumbling down. It seems like he should have led more than just 1 lap because he is at the front pretty consistently. That is why he was on my mind and why I decided to choose him, because he does race inside the top 5 pretty consistently throughout his top 10, certainly at Daytona. And really, if you can be inside the top 10 in the last 10 laps at Daytona, you got a chance to win. And I think he is entirely capable of doing that. Now, Martin Truex Jr., on the other hand, he's another one, kind of like Kevin Harvick for me. I feel like he was better at the super speedways back when he was with DEI, back when he had Michael Waltrip racing. I think since he's come over to the Toyota camp, he's not been the same type of restrictor plate driver to me. For whatever reason, he's not been able to get to the finish in a good position. Only 2 top 5s, only 2 top 10s. They were both top 5s in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Daytona races, multiple crashes. He's just not, he's not getting to the finish, and he's not getting consistently placed inside the top 10 and going out and leading laps. I think he was much better at the early part of his career, similar to Kevin Harvick.
All right, now, as far as some of the other long shots, you only have one other driver that you put money on. That was Reddick at 30-1. You mentioned that, with Dillon. He was 7th at Talladega this year, 7th in one of the races at Talladega last year. He actually has an Xfinity Series win at Daytona, but he hasn't fared so far yet. in the Cup Series.
Yeah, I think he's going to probably be a little bit conservative. I think this week, considering he can make it in on points, like I said, I think he's going to try to get inside the top 10 for the first and second stages and get those stage points. The question is, if he's able to do that, what does he then do for the last segment? Does he go for the win? Does he race at the front? Does he risk, etc.? 3 crashes out of the top 4, out of the 4 races that he's raced.
That's got to concern him.
It is very concerning. So he's going to be conservative, but I think if he can get those stage points, be comfortable with okay, I got 31 points in the bag. Let's go see what we can do. Or if Dillon exits early, then he can go for the win because he's basically going to get it in terms of the playoff spot. But quite honestly, with 3 crashes out of his 4 tries, he's in a Richard Childress car. He is quick. He's has been beating Dillon pretty consistently over the past few weeks. I don't think that we've seen the real Reddick at Daytona yet. So I'm kind of discounting, or I am discounting his average finish of 27.8. I think it should be something more inside the top 10.
All right. Now, the only other driver I have, as far as the long shots, is Kurt Busch at 28-1. And I've been riding Busch the last few weeks, even after the win. 7 top 10s in his last 10, 3 top 5s in a win, including the 4th place finish last week. He's got 13 top 5s at Daytona. When he won the 500 in 2017, we talked about how it was like about time that Kurt Busch, he was like the best plate driver that had never won at Daytona. So he's still that driver. The only thing is, he's finished 20. He's at an average of 26th since his 500 win in 2017. So he can race on the track, but he's at that point where things aren't going well. If he wasn't racing at a nice level, like the way he is right now, I would not take him. But I like the way he's racing. He's on a nice roll. He races well at this track. He's done it before. So I get the feeling that maybe he'll be able to do it again. I don't know. Maybe it's his teammates that he's had over the last few years that just haven't been the same as the ones he had before that.
Yeah, that could be the case. I mean, we talked about him every single time coming to Daytona and Talladega, especially Daytona. He pushed how many people to wins throughout his career and just needed to get that done. And it seemed like once he won the Daytona 500, that was the pinnacle. After that, 5 crashes out of the next 8 races, which is why his average finish is so low. Did he get the win? So now he's good and he's kind of changed his driving style a little bit? Or is it the teammates? Could be either one of those very easily, but just 1 top 10 at Daytona since he won that. That's why I'm not choosing him. I just don't think, I agree with you right now. He's a good choice deep in the field, certainly for his odds, considering his history. But right now, specifically at Daytona, just 1 top 10 since he won, and that was all the way back in 2017. I'm questioning whether or not on the restrictor plates, specifically at Daytona, is he still the Kurt Busch we grew to know at that point.
Okay, and then Eric threw a few bucks each on besides Reddick and Wallace.
Didn't like you choose
LaJoie, Priest, Suarez, Briscoe, and Chastain.
Watch Corey LaJoie win.
Let's see. Trying to see here out of the ones. Let's see. Chastain. He has 7 top 10s and 13 Xfinity Series races at Daytona with a 2019 win. Suarez. I don't understand the Suarez one because he's crashed in 7 of 8 races. I don't get that. Priest though. Was 6th at the 500 this year and has 2 top 10s and 5 when he doesn't crash. And LaJoie has 3 top 10s in his last 4 at Daytona, including 9th at the 500. So I could see a few of those that why he's going the long shot way. A few others I don't. But who do you like way down? You know, even the ones like Newman, Buescher. Who else would you add?
Buescher, Chastain, I think are good choices. Buescher's been pretty consistently fast at the super speedways. Just got to be able to get through to the finish. Chastain, 2 top 10s out of 6 starts, and I joked about Corey LaJoie. Daytona's the right place to choose Corey LaJoie.
The only place, yeah.
The only play. He has a way of surviving. I don't think he's got the car to win. He doesn't have the teammates to win, but he has a way of getting to the.
Yeah.
And
Everybody
sometimes
wrecks around him, and yeah.
exactly. Sometimes that's all that matters. So good on you, Eric, for choosing LaJoy. I was just joking. This would be the place to choose him, but I do not think that he is going to win. Of that bunch, certainly Chastain and Buescher would be the two that I would go with.
And by the way, Ryan Newman, who has a 08 500 win, has 5 top 10s in his last 8 at Daytona, and Buescher has 5 top 10s in his last 8, including 3 top 5s at Daytona. All right, so next week, again, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to preview the playoffs. We are going to talk about potential trades. We'll talk about anybody making any moves in free agency. We'll take a look at the standings, see how we look heading into the postseason, and also, like I said, our future expenditures will go up. We'll have an opportunity to spend the cap out at 200 each for the next 3 races. So we'll see how, because that's starting to get a little bit serious now, as we have to start really deciding which ones to go with and which ones to say, all right, I can't keep putting money on you anymore. It's not working out for me. You can't just invest in 8 drivers or 6 drivers every week. So you're gonna have to start making, and that's why when we have the playoff show next week, we'll be able to kind of make our predictions, and we'll have a better understanding of exactly who we think will make it all the way through to the Final Four.
Absolutely. I'm fascinated to see how Eric is going to compensate for going in the hole every single week on his futures choices. I don't think he has a single driver that's in the money right now, does he?
He's invested $17,500, which is $5,000 more than you, and you're in second. I've invested the least. He has, I think, no, there is 2 drivers that he's broken even with, almost.
Okay.
Logano and Harvick.
Okay.
Not sure those are the drivers I'd want to be breaking even with right now, but you never know. But that's why they're getting good odds. So,
Exactly.
maybe he'll leave them alone now and then go with other drivers that he'll have to make up with. But that's the thing. I mean, you're in a really good situation with Kyle Larson.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Like
right now you would make about $3,000 if you won.
Exactly. I've been continuing. Once I got up on him, I wanted to just carry that forward. So that's what I've been doing each week. And I'm biding my time until we get to the playoffs when we get a little bit more money. And then I'll start being a little bit more targeted.
And I need, let's see, I have Blaney would make me about $6,000. Byron would earn me about 4. Bowman about 4. And those are the only ones that I'd make money on. So yeah, and then Larson is your big payout, and then yeah, and then we all have our work cut out for us. Eric has only got about 1,200 down on Hamlin, so that's not bad. And Truex isn't that far away. Elliott and Larson aren't that far away. But again, that's why you're going to have to decide where to put that money. Especially, again, it's nice that you can put 200 now on a driver. But again, that means it's 200 more on your account. So
Exactly.
You can't just keep putting 6 drivers at 200. I don't know if that'll work. I mean, I haven't, maybe you could still do that for another round. Possible. Because again, we're going to get to 300, then 400, and then we'll have one race to invest $500 in our futures, the race at Phoenix. So, what's going on at RotoWire? What are you working on for the big race activity this weekend?
Well, we've got the final race before the playoffs, obviously. Looking forward to that Daytona. So we'll have a fantasy preview up for that on Friday, probably either late Thursday or early Friday. We'll also have the Xfinity preview up. They're also racing at Daytona Friday night. Trucks are off this week, and then we'll have the Daytona recap and the playoff preview up sometime on Monday for rotowire.com, all your fantasy needs.
And as you can see, you can get that free 10-day subscription at rotowire.com/PrimeSN. Please subscribe to our channel if you enjoy the videos, and any questions or comments, please let us know what's on your mind too, good or bad. And we'll start the second season next week. Excited about that. So football season's coming, but at least for a few more weeks until the regular season begins, we've got some, especially on Saturday night. I don't even know, to tell you the truth, if there's been rain the last couple of years, because I don't remember the last night race at Daytona.
I think there has been rain, to be quite honest with you, but not enough to make it a true disaster. So if anything, it's delayed the starter. They've been able to restart it. Great thing is it is a night race. Speaking, it's not raining in Florida at night unless you got some kind of system. I don't think there are any systems out there right now threatening, so it should be pretty good.
All right, sounds good, CJ. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.